The Ricoh GR III is absolutely the best camera money can buy in 2025, and I am so convinced that I photographed my own wedding with it. What's going on, beautiful people? My name is Quintavious, and it has been a long time. I think the last video I made was about 3 years ago, and a lot has changed in that time period. I've made some changes in myself that I thought were necessary for being a better person, a better dad, a better photographer. I woke up one day and decided to quit drinking, quit smoking, cold turkey, mind you. That was awful in the beginning, but 10 out of 10 would recommend. If you're thinking about quitting drinking, quitting smoking, 100% do it. It is worth it. Started working out, started taking better care of myself, my physical and mental health. And as a result, my photography has changed quite drastically. The things I was doing, the people I was around, the places I was going, all naturally changed based on the changes I was making in my own life. So of course, the photographs I was making as a result, they also changed. Another thing that has changed is I got married, and that was a big deal. I never thought I would be doing that again, but when love comes knocking at your door, you gotta answer, and that's where this thing comes into play. This little Ricoh GR III played a big part in the changes I've made over the last several years, mainly because I decided it was a great idea to photograph my own wedding with this. My wife and I sat down looking at different photographs, other wedding photographers and what have you, and we decided we didn't want the standard airy, overexposed, Canon color-esque wedding photos. And no shade to anybody who loves that look or who has those photos for their wedding. I think it's fantastic, but photography has been at the center of our relationship since we met over 10 years ago. You see, my wife slid into my DMs to let me know that she liked my art, and I thought it was a great idea that we go make art together. So the very next day we went out and we ran around in the rain, we made some photos, and I'm pretty sure if love at first sight really is a thing, that was it. I knew instantly that she was the one. And over the next several years, we began to document our life together, not even with any purpose or anything. We just enjoyed each other's company. She shot a lot with the Fujifilm X100 series of cameras, Contax T2. She fell in love with the Olympus MJU2. And of course, I've used a number of different cameras over the years, she being one of the first people I'd photographed with all of them. So it felt right that we continued our tradition in photographing each other and documenting our lives together on our wedding day. One big factor in us deciding to photograph our own wedding was the idea that we didn't want to remember our day from someone else's perspective. We didn't want to look at each other from someone else's perspective across the room or from a third person point of view. I wanted to remember what it was like to stand there, how nervous and excited that I felt, and the look in her eye as she gazed into mine. I thought that was such an important moment, and I didn't want to trust it with anyone else. And saying it out loud like this, it really feels like it makes sense. I don't know why more people don't do this, but it was not an easy task. First, choosing the camera we were going to photograph our wedding with was a big deal. And naturally, I wanted to reach for my Leica, but it felt like a rangefinder or anything larger would have gotten in the way. It would have become about the camera and not about us. I didn't want our wedding to be about anything other than our interaction with each other and our families. So the next best thing was a point and shoot. Now, I ended up selling my favorite point and shoot camera in the world, the Fujifilm Class W that I did a video on quite some time ago. I still stand by the idea that that is the best point and shoot camera ever made. So it was time to find a new one. While I was looking for the camera we were gonna shoot our wedding with, it was holiday season. We decided to get married on New Year's Eve this past year, 2024. We looked at the Fujifilm series of cameras. We were both used to those. We love the photos that come out of them, but they are all but unobtainable right now. And even if you have some connections and cheat codes, it's still difficult to get your hands on some of those. So I figured I'd go with what I thought at the time was the next best thing and reach for a Ricoh GR III. I had never used a Ricoh camera before. I had never put hands on one, but I had heard a lot of people turning to Ricoh as an alternative to the Fuji, and I thought it might be a good idea because I wanted something that I'd carry with me every day. And I stand by the idea that the best camera is the one that's with you. If you don't leave the house with it, if it stays in your bag, if it sits on your shelf, it's a useless tool. It doesn't matter how many megapixels it has, how many bells and whistles and features it has. It's just a paperweight at the end of the day if you're not out using it. And something of this size, well, there's no excuse not to use it every single day. And since I photographed our wedding with it, I have taken this with me everywhere. One of the other factors that played into me picking this to photograph my wedding with was it's all but silent. I'll hold it next to my microphone to see if you guys can hear it. But the focusing is quiet, the shutter is all but silent, and I thought that was really important because I didn't want anything else getting in the way of the experience of getting married while still being in the moment and photographing what was happening around us. Now, the other camera that we picked was also a Ricoh camera. We used the Ricoh GR1S, and I really wanted to love that, especially as I had sold my Fujifilm Class W, but that camera, while legendary and the image quality is spectacular, it was loud. It's just, there's no other way around it. That may as well have been a 12 gauge shotgun going off during the wedding. So I instantly returned that camera and still have not found an alternative to my Fujifilm because now they have become all but impossible to find. But I'm pretty satisfied with just using this one. I never thought I'd be satisfied with a digital camera. I know I said years ago that Leica M10 was my favorite camera at the time in 2020, but even that just hasn't done it for me. This though, image quality wise, for a digital camera, or even, I shoot this more than I shoot a lot of my film cameras now. This is it. I like this thing so much that I took it with me to photograph the Concours d'Elegance in Florida, in Amelia Island, Florida. It is this fancy car show that everyone brings their Bugattis and Porsches and Lamborghinis to. And not to understate the importance of events like this, but I felt like I needed an important camera to photograph such a thing. So I brought along the Hasselblad X1D Mark II. And let me grab that real quick. This is what I thought would replace my Hasselblad X-Pan and my Mamiya 7. But over the last few weeks, I have tried to love this camera, tried to like it, and every time I bring it out, I end up shooting with this instead. This camera is so small, so compact, but it does a number of things that I think are really important. Aside from it having a 28mm equivalent lens and a beautiful 24 megapixel APS-C sensor, you guys know I don't really deal in specs, but I think those are important. This has a macro mode, and when it comes to photographing cars, the attention to detail, the engineering, the artistry, it's important to get all of those things, to appreciate all of those features. And a camera like this allows me to get in super close, super tight, and get into spaces that I feel like a bigger, chunkier camera just doesn't allow. Not that anybody cared that I was shooting, they loved the idea of pictures, but this feels so serious. It feels like I have to take it seriously. Whereas this, I get to take the moment seriously. I get to enjoy what's happening around me, appreciate the things in front of me, rather than having to fiddle with settings. And I'll do another video on why I am not in love with the Hasselblad. I feel like I'm supposed to like it. I feel like it's a fantastic camera and the image quality is stunning. But I just don't care about this Hasselblad. This, though, goes with me everywhere. And I think that's an important distinction to make. It's on paper, this should be every bit the best camera in the world. But this, I don't leave the house without. And the best camera is indeed the one that's with you. Now, I know a lot of people love talking about street photography and the snap focus. I think I've done everything but street photography with this. I've made portraits with my family. I've documented different events with it. I photographed my wedding with it. And I just use it for everything that I do day to day. I think this is the perfect documentary camera. Rather than a street photography camera, this I would call a documentary camera. This is for those important moments that you can't miss, that you want and feel are more important than what a cell phone can offer you, but not so serious that you need to bring out your giant telephoto lenses and tripods and a bunch of flashes. This is the camera you bring with you when there are important moments that you need to be involved in, but also want to remember. And for that, I don't think any of the other specs matter. None of those features is gonna make you a better photographer. None of those features is gonna make your pictures any better. While this camera does make fantastic photographs, those files that come out of this are far more malleable than I would have imagined any APS sensor camera could produce. But if you're not present, if you're not there making the pictures, who cares what the files look like, what they're capable of, what the lens looks like, if it's sharp or not, if the focus is snappy, all those things you don't have to worry about with this. Fantastic all across the board. The only thing that I think I miss, and I'm not sure, I say I think I miss, is not having a viewfinder. I still find myself wanting to do this when I pick up my camera. I think that's more out of habit than anything else. Kind of like after not wearing glasses for a while, you still have that habit of trying to push them up in the middle. But at the end of the day, I think after shooting with this for weeks and weeks and weeks, every single day, I've gotten used to just kind of holding it like this or like this. And I feel kind of like that tourist dad sometimes, holding up my camera and snapping photos of my daughter at arm's length like that. But then I look at the pictures and I kind of don't care what I look like. It's not about that. It's about being in the moment. It's about what's happening in front of the camera. And I would absolutely recommend this for anybody who's looking to reignite that spark. Like I said, over the past 3 years, I've made a lot of interesting changes, health-wise, mentally, physically, and part of me started to fall out of love with photography. I started to feel like if I weren't damaged, if I weren't dealing with my problems through cameras, then I wasn't a real artist anymore. There was so much anger and grief and tension in the work that I was producing that once that started to go away, I felt like I had nothing else to talk about, nothing else to say. And I think that's an important subject for the next video I'm about to make or about to release, because it's already done. But this right here played a big part in why I'm still photographing. And for those of you who have stuck with me and encouraged me and left comments on Instagram and what have you and checked on me, I truly appreciate you guys. I promised I would get back to making videos. I said I'd come back and, you know, continue this process because it's fun. I like spending time with you guys, but I did need the time to reset. And you'll find that over the next few months, as I produce more and more videos, there's not gonna be any real technical stuff going on here. I'm gonna talk about my journey through photography. I'm gonna tell some stories. I'm gonna talk about how these tools have affected those stories, but I'm not gonna get into the nitty gritty of these things. There's tons of videos already out, especially on cameras like this. And there are tons of people who are way more knowledgeable than I am about all the technical stuff. I don't care. Photography is about feeling. A good photograph is a byproduct of a good experience. And that's what I wanna discuss here, those experiences and why we do what we do. I think it's important to find a camera that suits your needs. And for right now, this is what suits my needs. It fits in my pocket, it goes with me everywhere, it produces the images that I need, it's got the right focal length of lens, and it doesn't get in my way. Those are the things that are important to me. Those are the things that matter, and that's what helps me make good photographs. So if you found that, let me know in the comments what that camera is for you, what camera gets out of your way and allows you to be in the moment and process what's happening. What camera has allowed you to document those important moments, whether it's the birth of a child or your wedding or meeting your best friend for the first time. I think all of those are important moments to document, whether you use something like this or like this. And we have some things to discuss about this, but we'll get to that. Till next time, I appreciate you guys sticking with me, and I'll see you guys soon. Cheers.